Hey, how's it going, everyone? Today I'll be showing you my website, ReadMe Books for All. I created this website as part of the Nucamp front-end bootcamp. I started this website with web development with Bootstrap course, and I continued to improve the website in the web development with React course. Okay, so I'll start off on why I created this website. It's actually my nephew inspired me. I noticed that he has to turn in books he read during the week. And I noticed a huge shelf at my sister's home, and realized that after he's done reading these books, he can't really put them back on the list. So what does he do with them? I asked my sister, and she said they just kind of sit there, or they go to donations. So I was thinking about it, and I said, you know what? There's other parents probably at the same school that have books from a prior grade or a next grade, and, in reference to my nephew, that he can use to put on his list, and they can use his books to put on their list. So I was thinking, why isn't there something where parents can trade books depending on what grade their child is in, without having to buy books from Target or Amazon, buy them new because I know they're really expensive. This way everyone can just trade books, have fun reading, and at the same time kind of have equity in mind, because some of these parents can't afford all these books, these brand new books every week for their kids to read. So I decided, you know what, I think I should find a solution for that, and that's what inspired me to create this website. In the React course, I added features like sign on, the search, contact info, and newsletters, where instead of just being static and you can just click around and it doesn't really do anything, now it writes the information to a database, and it can also retrieve information from a database. For example, like the sign in or the search, where it makes API calls to the Google server, and even the contact form and the newsletter form that keeps the records of the people that have inputted information so you can contact them later. So this is the home page. I use React components to render every page that you see on here, and all of them have this header, this nav bar, and in the middle, these rows of content. There's two different variations, and you can create as many as you want, where I have a photo or a grid of photos and then verbiage right next to it. And on the homepage, I have these two buttons, the register and the sign on, and we'll look at that a little bit later. On the about me, the same thing. I use those same exact components, just with different verbiage. And although this is the same image, because this is just my mock-up website, I should be able to upload or use the API server to grab the links and create each individual image from different source files that you may have, or the creator might want. Obviously, you can see welcome to ReadMe shows up again. And I use this more to just demonstrate what you can do with the components. And the next item, let's say the newsletter. This one was fun. I kind of changed this component to use some nice font, and then I embedded a YouTube video. And this would update every month with a newsletter that can be written, submitted, and then updated without the user having to go to the website. They would just have to submit through, a back-end format. All right, let's move on to contact. Contact has simple, contact information and a form that you can submit if you want to provide feedback. And those are the pages that are hidden, that are revealed when you log in or you want to submit information. So let's go back to the first one that I want to use for submission. It's the sign-up form. It's a newsletter sign-up form where a user can submit their email, full name, and zip code. I use Formic for these forms. And the reason I did that is so I can have validation incorporated into the form. And obviously I need a valid email. So let's just enter test@gmail.com, and that worked. The full name isn't required, but if you do start it, the validation will kick in. And here the name needs to be at least 2 letters, but let's use my full name there. And the zip code, again, it's not required, but if you do start it, you do get the validation form responses. So here, let me put the full zip code. And when I click sign up, it says thank you. It grabs the name you submitted, tells you keep an eye out for next month's newsletter and exciting news. And this actually goes to a JSON database in the back. I'll show you that now. All right, so here's the database, and this database is being served through a JSON server. Let me pull this up for you. So I have a users database, a feedback, and a newsletter, or more, I guess, tables for this information. So let's look at the newsletter. Let's see what happened there. There's some test data that I've been entering. And here you go. This is what I entered just now. Test@gmail.com, Manny, and my zip code. It automatically gives you an ID, just like any SQL tables would, to distinguish the data from one another, kind of like a primary key. And then let's try out the contact form since I'm already here. Let's do test@test. Actually, I'm sorry. Let's do one first name, test, last name, test, phone number. Actually, if we enter the wrong format, I do get an error. There you go. I need dashes inside the phone number. So let's do 55555555. There we go. A valid email as well. test@gmail.com. May we contact you? Yes. By phone or email. Let's do phone. And let's give our feedback. This is a test. And before I click submit, let's move over to the right and look at this feedback form. So this feedback looks like I used the same information earlier, but this one has ID 0. And when I press send feedback, the server should respond, and I should see another entry here. Here we go. Give it a second. Oh, there you go. And here's the second entry that I just gave. Test. The same information as earlier. This is a test. Okay, let's test another feature. Let's do the search. All right, making the screen wider for everyone. Let's do search of cat in the hat. And then we'll look at the code afterwards. As you can see, when I did cat in the hat, the search results came in the form of cards, where the image gets displayed, the title, average rating, the author, what languages, and a small summary for each of these books. Of course, it's the same book over and over, but each one has their different ISBN numbers, different IDs, and some of them have come out in different years. And actually, it shows you other books that are related to Cat in the Hat. And for each specific card, if the summary is too long, you can press read more, and it'll show you the rest of the text. And you can do read less, and it'll shrink it again. And a feature that I want to include soon is if you click this personal library button, it'll toggle, and if you're logged in, it'll include it into your library or a wish list of sorts. And if you don't want it anymore, you can unclick it. All right, let's test another feature here. Let's go home and let's log in. So I'm going to sign in. Let me move to the left here. Again, we're going to go into the database and let's choose a user. So let's use myself. I have the username and password there. Username 123, password 123. And what it does, it goes into the server, checks if this user even exists. And actually, before I do that, let's check if the user exists. Here we go. So I entered incorrect password, and you can see the message at the bottom, incorrect username or password. We don't want to let them know, but let's fix that. Password 123, and I'm in. And this page here is just kind of a mock-up with real information. I created a card here where it grabs the name, the username, what school this parent belongs to, the zip code, number of students. I know this is 25. I should say at least no more than 6 or 10, And the students, it's the amount of children that they have. And for wish list, you can see the book titles there and the library as well. And the wish list is the books that the parent wants for their child to read, for whether it be that week or the next week. And the library is to kind of show the books that parent has available to let another parent borrow. And again, I just put in another component with just verbiage and photos. I can edit this later and put information that's actually useful. And even if I click other pages here, the user profile is still logged in. Because if you notice, when I clicked home earlier, it said register or sign in or sign on, but now it says go to profile. So when I click go to profile, it sends me back. Go to contact, same thing. I do search. Let's do Metallica, my favorite band. Awesome. The cards came in. This one's a little short. I'm gonna have to fix that. And it's the same as the Cat in the Hat. Obviously, it's a different search. And this is using the Google Books API. It's free. It brings you, a lot of different data from the books. And I'm using this for kind of a mock-up. Eventually, I would have the search go into my database and search for the books that other parents have and put them into the card so everyone can kind of share the books that they need. But going back to my point, if I click home, I'm still in the profile. So let's go to profile and log out. And look at that, I'm back home, and now the register and the sign up button is back. Okay, so let's take a look at the code. We are here. Make this wide for everyone. So the way this is set up, I'm using Node.js to handle all my packages. And as you can see here in the package.json, I use Bootstrap libraries, React Redux, router, scripts, Spring. And if you use this file and do npm install, you can use the same exact libraries with the exact same versions of what I used. And then going over to my source file is where the application is set up. So I have a utils folder, which is kind of the utilities folder. And in that folder, I have a lot of the form validations that I was talking about earlier that I use with Formic. For this one is the contact form. So it checks if there's, a first name. If there isn't, it's, we'll tell you it's required. The length, it has to be more than, 2 letters, less than 15. Same thing for the last name. I'll check phone number. In this case, it's 3 numbers, a dash, 3 numbers, a dash, and 4 numbers. And then your email. And in this form, your email just needs an @ and it'll take it in. But for my newsletter, I actually used a regular expression or a regex for more of an intricate email validation. So for this one, for sure, it needs, letters, the @ and then letters, and then a .com. And then for the full name and the zip code, it's just they're just simple if else statements for length, if it even exists. User login, kind of the same thing, very generic. I know there's more intricate features needed for a user login, but for this one, I just need a kind of a username between 16 and 15 characters. The password must be at least 8 characters long. And then the pages here, I have the home page set up. And let me make this a little bit smaller. And most of the pages are just made out of the components that I have in the components folder. It makes coding much easier where I have to just go into one of the modules or one of the components, code there, and then just place it in any page that I like. In this case, the home page is really made out of 1, 2, 3 components. Let's go to the newsletter. Same thing. This one's made out of 1 component with some verbiage. The profile page, 1, 2, 3 components, a button, the row content that I was talking about earlier, where it's the photo and the verbiage, and then the profile card itself. The search is the same thing. This one's a little bit more intricate because I do make API calls, and we'll take a look at the slices that I created in order to make the API calls, to get the state of the application, to save the data from the search, and also from the user login. The About Us page, again, very simple, 3 components, contact page as well. Well, this one actually has a form. So it's 1 component and then the HTML for the information on the side. All right, so let's jump over to components. Here I have my contact form. It's a little bit more intricate because it has, the Formic validation, what to enter, uses form groups to organize all the data for the input fields. There's error messages, and you can actually put this form in any of the pages that I like. It's standalone, and that's why, React components, that's what they're made for. So you don't have to keep repeating yourself over and over. Here, for example, it's just, a simple error message, an H4 tag, my footer, my header, loading. As you saw earlier, when I did the search, there were the dials, the circle dials. They came from here. And this is the navbar component. This is actually the component below the Jumbotron up top. Because as you scroll down, it sticks to the top and it stays there. That way you always have your home, the about, the search at the top of the site. The row content that I mentioned earlier, it's made out of just HTML. And with these, all you have to do is enter your content and place it wherever you want. Here, obviously, I'm repeating myself multiple times. Later on, I think I'll do just, a simple .map function, grab links from the database that can source the images. And this one's a little bit more intricate. This is the search feature. I use React hooks like use state, dispatch, and use navigate to kind of grab the information from the user, push it over to an Express proxy server, and then the server will shoot it over to the Google API, and then will come back. And the reason I did that is because when you're in development, you have the CORS error that comes up because your browser doesn't want to take the response back due to security reasons. So what I did is use a proxy server to send out the API call, and when it came back, I would put a header on there so the browser would accept it. It would be able to populate my page. And what I can do is I can show you that server now. Here we go. So see here, this is a simple server that I have on a Docker container. Make this big for you. And what it does, my website pings to this location, and then from here it shoots it over to the Google API, and it grabs a response, and when it does, it shoots it back with a header, and it's the appropriate header for the browser to take in, and I can actually grab the information. And for this one, I use Axios. Usually most people use Fetch, but I wanted to use a different library just to kind of learn how to use it. And it's a simple, try catch kind of situation. Send the response, see what happens. If there's an error, instead of being stuck there, send the message back like API call error, failed to fetch data from API, to let me know or the user know that it didn't go through. Let's go back to the original code. And besides that, I do have these features, and the features were really for using React state, where I would create an initial state, create a slice in the React store. So for this one would be the user slice. I would grab the store and slice out a portion of that store to allocate information that I needed that related to users. For example, the user data, the user that's logged in, is a user even logged in? Is it loading? Is there an error message? And I have different reducers that I wrote for each of the situations where I want to set the user data, set the logged user, set that it's logged in, set that someone is logged in, and clear the log data. And the way this is set up is how they taught me inside of the bootcamp, where we use extra reducers for the fetch operations in case it's pending, it returns an error, or it's been completed. Because if you don't do this on the user's end, the user's just waiting there with a blank page, not knowing whether the search is actually working or there was an error, and they're just sitting there and they're never going to get anything back. And I made some selectors down here as well for quick information that I needed. So let's say I'm in the profile page. I can grab one of these selectors to figure out, who are all the users, select a current user, and have different functions that I don't need to recode every time or in every component. So for the features, I have users, I have the search. Again, did the API call, grabbed a slice out of the store, and set my different reducers and different selectors that I would be calling. The book card. This one here I actually had created inside of the Bootstrap class. I used the same code with some modifications for React. And it made it easy where I grab the information that comes back from the API call and map it to different variables, and then those variables put them inside of the card that shows up on the web page. Same thing for the profile. This is the same card you saw earlier, where it goes to the React store, grabs the information from the user, and populates the card, depending on the variable that I need. Newsletter, same thing. This makes an API call to my server when it needs to post the information after the user has entered their email and name and zip code. Feedback form, same thing. It makes a post request to the JSON server. Once the validation is approved through Formic, it will allow the fetch to make an API call and record all that information. And that's it. It's a simple application. This is what I did in 4 weeks of React. I was able to create some backend servers. In this case was a JSON and my Express. One to store information and another one to make API calls through the proxy. And I used React to create the front end. And hopefully soon I should be able to upload this to AWS, obviously with some a little bit more validation and a little bit of improvement in some of the features where security won't be an issue. And I'll be able to, I guess, get users to go on there, test it out, and see how it does. But to be continued, as they say. Thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment. Until next time.